For Hastings.
Thank you, Acting Speaker, and I'm happy to rise to give my contribution to the Energy and Public Land Legislation Amendment enabling Offshore Wind Energy Bill 2024. This bill amends the Land Act of 1958, the Crown Land Reserves Act of 1978, Forests Act of 1958, National Parks Act 1975 and the Electricity Industry Act of 2000. Now, I think it's pretty fair to ask what this bill means and what the changes in this bill means to people in the chamber and to our families and people in our community. And quite simply, when I look at it and bring it down to one idea, this bill is about getting us to net zero. That's what it's doing. And it does it in a variety of ways. Some of the arguments that I've heard from the other side of the House, people are asking that there's not enough information in it, there's no plan, there's no structure, what if this, what if that, and I kind of feel like you're putting the cart before the horse. This bill does what it needs to do to get us to net zero. When I wake up in the morning and think I want to cook a roast lamb, I don't go out and put the barbecue on and then go out and buy the lamb and take it home and marinate it and put it in the fridge and cook it in the afternoon. I kind of feel like that's a little bit what the opposition is involved in. Let's just go out and buy the lamb, do the work, and get to net zero. And this bill, marinate it. This bill is just one tranche of the Allan Labor government's journey to achieving net zero, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. I just want to acknowledge that my electorate is Hastings, member for Narrabeen. You've had a few words to say about that. And, we have had a little bit of a beating lately, but I do believe that Hastings could and hopefully will play a major role in building the offshore wind farms and with Victoria attaining net zero. We didn't get a great result, but I disagree with the member because it's not dead in the water. There's a lot of work to be done, and I'm very positive. And I'd like to reiterate to the House that the Minister for Ports and the Minister for Energy and Resources are working with the federal government for a path forward to progress the port, and stay tuned to this spot, and I remain positive. So this bill will allow for offshore wind project proponents to undertake crucial project planning and design work for connection points that will run through Commonwealth and Victorian waters to an offshore electricity grid connection point. This will be done in a few ways, which include enabling the Victorian licences to be issued or have agreements be entered in, so that offshore wind proponents can conduct investigatory works as part of any proposed construction of offshore wind. And I might say I've had a lot of people come to my office very excited about doing exploration and getting involved in the offshore wind project in Gippsland. Also, this bill will allow the Minister that administers the Electricity Industry Act of 2000 to declare an entity to be an offshore wind generation company, so they can begin investigatory activities if necessary under the National Parks Act of 1975. As mentioned, it amends the Land Act, the Crown Act, the Forest Act, I've already said that, but what that does is it enables activities to be approved on public land relating to the investigation of offshore wind connection assets. These are important measures to be undertaken as we are in a climate crisis. Coal-fired power stations are closing and a nuclear thought bubble will not provide power to our homes. This bill will mark a continuation of the delivery of 95% renewables by 2035, net zero by 2045, and achieve wind energy targets of 9 gigawatts by 2040 as well. For those on the other side, this would still be faster than any nuclear project and come at a fraction of the cost as well. Offshore wind is economically viable and environmentally responsible. Wind power is an infinite source of renewable energy. It creates no greenhouse gas emissions, making it an enormously important source of energy for us to achieve net zero. And guess what? It's free. Fantastic. Wind is free. Nuclear power is not free. We can harness the wind, but it's free, but it costs a lot of money to create and harness nuclear power. So I think that's a terrific thing for all of us to remember. We need to provide certainty for our country's first offshore wind industry. which is why this bill is before us today, allowing for offshore wind developers to have a long-term certainty that public land can be used for electricity infrastructure to power this state with clean, renewable energy. This connection infrastructure is required to deliver electricity generated by offshore wind projects in declared Commonwealth waters into the Victorian grid. Now, there are many things that we are proud of in Victoria. We have the best education system in the world. We are the major events capital of the country, cultural and arts hub, just to name a few off the top of my head. On top of all that, we can be the offshore wind energy leader in Australia as well. And passing this legislation will put us on track to achieve that. The facts of the matter are, our reliance on coal is ending, our coal-fired plants are shutting down, and those same industries are looking to the future of energy, which is renewables. But we need to ensure that we build the necessary transmission infrastructure to support our renewable energy sector. By cutting red tape, allowing proponents to scope out possible sites to see the viability of them and clearing up bureaucratic backlogs that are only stifling the progression of offshore wind rather than accelerating it, so we can meet our targets, drive down emissions and give Victorians cheaper and more reliable power. Understandably, there is some community concern surrounding whether the transmission lines will be underground or above ground, and it's important that we strike the right balance between the two. It's not just economically feasible to put all of the transmission cables underground, as this would be a huge expense, and it has its own environmental impacts. There are advantages and disadvantages to both options. Many factors come into play, and I'm confident that this government can and will work through those challenges. But as I said, that's putting the cart a little bit before the horse. VicGrid have been tasked with coordinating the delivery of transmission infrastructure to ensure that it remains cost-effective, minimises the impact on communities and not have a situation where proponents develop individual transmission lines that aren't in harmony. There is also great opportunities for landowners to benefit from these projects. The investment for jobs in these regions will provide an economic boon and have the chance to train up a new generation of renewable energy workers. Not only will it lead to local job creation, development of new industries, growing training and skills, but also allow for payments to be made for people hosting transmission lines on their land. Now, this will be done through the Victorian Transmission Investment Framework for our renewable energy zones. Acting Speaker, we can talk about all the benefits that this bill will achieve once passed, but currently they are all words. But we on this side back those words up with real and tangible outcomes, with legislation to address climate change and progress our renewable energy sector. We've proven to the rest of the country that we can not only achieve our emissions reductions targets, but smash those targets. We've done that by showing a positive and forward-thinking plan to the Victorian people that does address climate change, and they've repaid us with their faith through voting in 3 successive Labor governments. We've cut emissions by more than any other state since 2014, and we have the strongest climate change legislation in the country, and that's what Victorians voted for, and that's what they're getting. However, Speaker, we can't do it all ourselves. An organised national approach is needed. We are a massive country and we can easily be a renewable energy powerhouse on the world stage. But we need a nationally consistent approach that helps progress offshore wind, not hinder it. We've had to deal with the former Liberal National Federal Government that provided no plans for renewables, no plans for nuclear, for that matter, even though they had nearly a decade to action it, and gave no tangible actions to curb rising emissions. We welcome the Albanese Government as our new partners in Canberra and are committed to working alongside them to achieve a net zero future, which will be done through clean, renewable energy. With that work starting right here in Victoria, the soon-to-be renewable energy state. It's a very exciting time to be in this space. It's a very exciting time to be a Victorian and be in government. We in this place stand on the precipice of making what was not that long ago believed to be unattainable, attainable. Net zero 2045 is not only possible, but probable. But we need to work together, federal, state, local and community. We need to make some brave decisions. It's a brave new world out there, and it is ours for the saving. That is what this bill will do. I commend this bill to the House.